So who am I? As introduced before, I am the CEO of Abilite Studios. Abilite Studios is a company that started out developing video games. And we transitioned into also publishing video games. From 2016, we've reorganized and we're focusing mainly into doing that for all main platforms. And we also keep developing, and that's why we're here talking about games and AR. First off, we're going to set what is usability and why is it part of my talk. According to the Interaction Design Foundation, usability is the extent to which a product can be used by specified users to achieve specific goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specific context. For us, in video games, we add also another layer to that. Everything that we do has to be fun. It has to be entertaining. Not only do we have to have a user, have a gamer, a player, using our software in an effective, efficient, that means as fast as possible, have the result that they want to get, that they're supposed to be getting, but it has to be fun. The whole process has to be fun. And for sure, what also is important to get into account is that what is usable or useful in one context or in one situation might not be in another one. So it is very important to have that context into account. So it's video games, right? So we have to think that there's the visual component, and we have to transmit, we have to give certain information to the players without explaining. We are not able to talk to each player how the game works or what it is supposed to be doing. So we have to use visual metaphors that are going to do the job for us. We rely on visual metaphors that already exist, that have been there for us, and what it is that. So, for example, we see well, whatever side, but we see a disc. When we see that nowadays, even though we're no longer use them, we still, this metaphor is so ingrained in our culture, in our society, in our everyday life, that we understand that that means save. We're saving whatever we're doing. And that's a visual metaphor, that it's ingrained in us. So we don't have to explain anybody what that means. Same thing goes with those 3 buttons that we see in a Windows, in a web browser, right? Not only we have a cross and a minus and some arrows, we also add the visual information of coloring. If we add red, then we're going to be closing down that window. If we put a minus, it's going to minimize it. Arrows, it's going to expand it. And that's what we are using to build, to talk to our users, to talk to the people that are going to be enjoying our software without having to explain in lengthy text. How did we in Abilite got into AR and games in AR? So back already in 2008, we did an AR experience for museum using signs, the cards, the reading system. Later on, we did, in 2011, already our first commercial game that would use AR. But it was a very innocent AR because the machine wouldn't allow, the technology wouldn't allow to have real AR experience for that console at that time. So what we did was create the expectation of a microscope where we would get the information from the camera, so from our surroundings, and through an algorithm calculation, get what the color is, the maximum color exposition, and create the fiction of zooming in whatever you were seeing. So that would give them the feeling, the experience of that zoom. And finally, we are at the RC Club. This is a project that we started working in 2017 and finally launched in 2018 after Apple announced the AR kit. And what is RC Club? RC Club is a very easy to understand. It's an RC, you're driving a remote control car. That's all you have to do. That's the message is very simple. And you use your device. It can be an iPhone or it can be an iPad. And we have our cars that had to run through our environment, right? So the first issue that we would have is how we communicate to our gamers, to the people that are going to download the game, that the game needs to recognize, to get the data from the surroundings. So we have to communicate to them that they have to hold their device with enough light and that they have to move. They have to move, they have to scan the room where they're at. Well, what we did was implement this figure, and it has a rotating movement to exemplify what it is expected from the user. In hopes, well, the figure is also holding a device, and in hopes that the user will get used to seeing that movement and that figurine and that visual metaphor and understand what is expected. Of course, we could not, at this point, we cannot expect that everybody understands these visual metaphors, so we had to add some text to it. Blur the rest of the image that is being captured by the camera, and then present the sole action that is expected. So we have our digital object. In our case, it's a car. It can be a car, a truck. That's the device, that's the object that we're going to be controlling in the game. And we have that, but it's not yet integrated in that digital world that we are capturing with our phone or our iPad, right? It's not the real world. It's a recreation of the real world in our device. It's the digital world that it's happening there. And we want to mix it with our reality, right? Our digital creation, a car. So what we do is, or what we did and what we do, is go back to what representation, what graphic representation that is already known means that something is there, but it's not really there yet. And we went to the hologram. We presented the car as a hologram that is not yet integrated, that you can move to decide where you want to place it, and until the moment that is touched and materialized. And that produces also a visual feedback, representation of, okay, now it's real, now it's materialized. So, freedom. This is a slide that talks about freedom. We have a lot of axes, and we have 9 axes, but we found that is too much freedom, it's too hard to handle. You need to learn how to handle the freedom. You need how to operate it. And at this stage, when it's launching the game, the first version of it, we thought that too much freedom would hinder the experience of getting to play, getting the enjoyment of playing, of controlling your car. So what we did was cut down a lot of axes that wouldn't bring that enjoyment. I'm going to do it in reverse. But there's no axis. We eliminated all about scale, even though it has been demanded, but that's been demanded by people that have really gone through the whole process and like the game and are really living it. So no scale, only one axis for rotation. The car can only rotate in one direction, and two axes for positioning. And that actually feels very natural. When playing, we have to take into account what platform are they playing at. In this case, it's iOS, so iPhone and iPad. And the user of those platforms, or the user that is playing in those platforms, has already some training. They know some gestures, they know some icons, they know the hand with the circles mean. That mean touch, swipe, pinch. So we go back to that known metaphors to implement in the game and tell them how to interact with our game. Also, we take on what does a player expect from a game that it's about driving cars. So we take that and we implement it in our game as in the easiest way possible, the most connected to what they expect, what the user, what an average user will expect from a video game that is about driving a car. Here, the sixth issue, it's about how our buttons work. So in reality, when we drive, we press our accelerator, whatever you're going, and you don't just press it or release it. You go through a process. You do it gradually, and that's what we implemented. We implemented a visual feedback of how much were you pressing with that little bar on top of the accelerator, and also give physical feedback. When you start pressing, it gives you the feedback, okay, I'm pressing, I'm accelerating, I'm going faster. And when you reach the end of it, the maximum that it can go, it also gives you physical feedback. So to reinforce the feedback, the experience, okay, I'm keeping into the world of reality, but in a game. This talks about pretty common case in this game. You know, you have turbo, you can accelerate, you can do loops, you can do a bunch of stuff with cars, and sometimes the car can go farther than you expected, and you would have to follow it, right? But sometimes people can get like surprised, and they forget that they can follow the car, and the car can get lost. So if the car gets lost, we use arrows and the more generic word possible, vehicle, signaling where the car is, because you can follow it. However, if that's not enough, we added the reset, the respawn button. So if you really cannot find your car in the game anymore, in reality or in your digital world, then you can respawn and it will generate in the middle of the screen again. And then we have to also add the fun. And adding the fun means when we already have our car running and we want to add other digital objects that are going to be interacting with our digital creation, which is our car. So we have something that is already real in our game, and we have something that is not yet integrated in the digital world. So we have to go back to the metaphor of the hologram. And when that hologram cannot be placed, when that new object cannot be placed into our digital world because there's already another object or there's some issues that cannot be placed like that, then we have to signal it with coloring. We change from that blue hue to a red hue. And here, there's only rotation too. And there's the arrows, the same arrows that we already presented when setting up our car. And because neither the iPad nor the iPhone are video game devices, it's not a console, so you're going to have interruptions. It's going to happen. You're going to get a call, you're going to get a text message, the weather is going to change because you're moving, life happens. So we have to communicate with the user that if that happens, if the game gets disconnected, it might have to reset the starting point so everything gets reconnected again. Because the environment has changed, it might have changed, and the game has to reset it. So we have to be able to communicate with them that maybe there's not enough light, or maybe it's moving too fast, or you have to reset the environment. And one more thing. We have to keep it as real as possible. Realism in an AR game is everything. You have to do it with lining, not only the game onto the real world, in the digital world, but also the lining, the objects that might cast shadows into our digital car. It has to be reflected, how it impacts, how the lining, how the objects might impact on our car and our experience. That is very important to make it react to as much as we can with the reality that we are getting from the real world. And with all this, after launching the game and doing a lot of beta testing and focus groups, we found that there's like three kinds of users. Those that have 0 degrees of freedom user. That's the one that will use the game without moving, like it would be any other game. Like it's not an AR game that you're supposed to be interacting and running and walking and see what's going on. But this is a real comment that we received. Where very, very gently and really, really graceful, let us know that sometimes the car will leave the game. The situation meaning that he wasn't moving, actually, that he would have to follow to find the car, but he didn't know that that was the case, that he could do that. Then the second, it's the 3 degrees of freedom user. It's the one that, okay, can play with it, can leave it, but to a certain degree. I mean, it gets to move a bit around and enjoys it, but not as much as the 6 degrees freedom user, which is the one that really, really lives through the AR experience. It's the one that goes out, that does interact with the nature, see how it reacts, really lives through the experience of the AR game. And what's next? Well, hopefully technology will maybe make the device not necessary to let us experience the reality, the augmented reality of the game. And seeing from what has happened in the past, when we've had some technologies, some breakthrough technology, especially in video games, with the Wii, for example, we got that new way of playing, and it was awesome. We all had the Wii Sports and maybe some yoga, But after a while, we all went back to sit down and press buttons, and that was it. That was the Wii, actually. The Wii Sports was an awesome selling point, but it took us to sitting down again. With AR on the phones, we've seen a great success with Pokemon Go, and a lot of people has left house and has gone places and visited and find, and we are not yet sure what's going to happen. Are we going to be really changing how we interact with technology? Maybe because of what I was saying about changing the devices that we use to okay, to live the AR experience, or I am over time. Okay, then thank you very much. That's it. Thanks.